Stories of the faithful can both inspire and entertain. This is especially true for the story of the Japanese Buddhist monk Zōga. Born in Kyoto in the year 917 CE, Zōga is celebrated for his great faith and learning, in particular his devotion to the sacred texts of the Lotus Sutra and his work to restore the prosperity of the temples at Tonomine, where he died in 1003. Zōga's biography is also peppered with miraculous tales and stories of his apparent eccentricity. Indeed, his rejection of high status and its trappings led to some particularly eye-catching episodes. As story became legend, the events of Zōga's life were repeated in manuscript, print, and handscroll paintings. We can look at some of those stories as featured in a pair of handscrolls in the collections of the Chester Beatty, Dublin. The handscrolls preserved at the Chester Beatty were painted in 1711 by an otherwise unknown artist named Hojuken Hogan. Alternating sections of painting and calligraphy tell the story of Zōga's life and deeds. The Chester Beatty scrolls are one of only 2 sets known on this subject. The other set is preserved at Tanzan Shrine in Tonomine, where Zōga did much of his life's work. Because Japanese handscrolls are complex and dynamic objects, over time scrolls can become creased or suffer other physical damage. An inscription on the box of the Zōga Shonin scrolls records that the scrolls were repaired in 1859 while in the care of Shigaiji Temple. 150 years later, however, the scrolls were showing significant creasing and pigment loss. Thanks to a generous grant from Japan's Sumitomo Foundation, the Zoga Shonin scrolls were fully conserved at Restorient Studio, Leiden between 2019 and 2022. This careful treatment ensures the scrolls' preservation and allows us to enjoy every detail of the stories they contain. In popular accounts, Zōga is born the son of Tachibana no Tsunehira, a court advisor. While Zōga is a child, his mother has a vision. As she holds her son, she sees him becoming a monk and holding a sutra scroll in his hands. At the age of 10, Zōga leaves his family to begin his training at the temples of Mount Hiei. There, Zōga receives instruction from Ryogen. Also known as the Great Teacher Jie, Ryogen is an important figure in the history of Japanese Buddhism. The monastic complex of Enryakuji, the head temple of Tendai Buddhism, can be glimpsed in the background of this painting. In the mid-10th century, Ryogen was appointed chief abbot of this temple. Some years later, Zōga returns from his training to visit his family. While the garden is beautifully painted with ducks and flowers, with his father's passing, the house has fallen into disrepair. As Zōga starts to apologize to his mother, she turns to him and scolds him. Telling him to devote himself to his training, she remarks that his fine robes and attendant suggest that he does not truly hold Buddhism in his heart, but rather seeks fame. Following his mother's warning, Zōga applies himself to his studies on Mount Hiei. One day he visits the Ise Shrine, shown in the painting here on the upper right. There, Zōga encounters a divine manifestation who tells him not to think of his body as real. Shaken by this spiritual awakening, Zōga removes his clothes and gives them away to beggars, as those looking on laugh at his strange behavior. When Zōga returns naked to Mount Hiei, people are convinced he has lost his mind. His teacher Ryogen also is shocked. Learning of Zōga's spiritual awakening, Ryogen advises that though in one's heart one should give up fame, you should still present your body properly. Soon after, Zōga leaves Mount Hiei to follow his own path. A lavish procession is held to celebrate Ryogen's appointment to high office. As Ryogen rides in an extravagant carriage surrounded by his entourage, Zōga joins the head of the procession, asserting his place as Ryogen's student. But rather than taking a regular mount, Zōga rides an emaciated female water buffalo. What is more, he straps a dried salmon to his waist in place of a sword. While the audience mock his apparent madness, Zōga's stern face is filled with disapproval at the sheer luxury of the occasion. Following a recommendation, Zōga visits the mountain temple of Tonomine. He is shocked to realize that this is the same scenery that he had seen in a dream 35 years before. Zōga settles in Tonomine and focuses on Buddhism's esoteric teachings, teachings held to be beyond the understanding of ordinary persons. Here, Zōga is shown mastering the recitation of the Lotus Sutra. As he reads from the indigo blue paper scroll, various Buddhas appear in coloured clouds in the sky above him. Many monks travelled to Tonomine in admiration of Zōga's great virtue. Through his deep-held beliefs and sincere learning, Zōga revitalizes the temples of Tonomine such that they flourish in faith. Zōga's passing is marked with an auspicious shower of lotus petals, but the story continues beyond his death. Having requested that he be buried, 3 years later, Zōga's body is exhumed and found to be perfectly preserved. It is likely that some of the anecdotes of Zōga's outrageous behaviour were elaborated, both for their value as stories and perhaps for political ends. Zōga's move away from Mount Hiei and its political intrigues may have served later writers who sought to indirectly criticize this powerful temple complex. In this case, the artist's inscription mentions that the paintings were prepared at the request of a monk at Shigaiji Temple, Tonomine. As well as showing the prosperity of Tonomine, the final episode in the scrolls features a vision of the guardian protector Bishamon Ten, as witnessed at this temple by the monk Ryue in the early 16th century. In recounting the tale of Zōga, this pair of scrolls also celebrate his legacy in restoring the vitality of the temples at Tonomine and their continuing standing and importance as a place of faith.